forgiver.
Well, here we go. The math, the up token update. So, couple things we need to take care of real quick. We need to pay attention to the ratio as well as the liquidity pool size if we're going to talk about the math and the price performance of the up token. You know, when I'm looking around currently, we're sitting at around 4,000 pulse per up, and according to Dex Screener, we're liquidity pool sitting around here somewhere. Okay, up token design and parameters. We wanted a finite supply. We want it deflationary by multiple buy and burn mechanisms. And we want the benevolent wallet to grow using feedback loops, immutable contract, and community first. That's what the up token is all about. Current ratio, as we said, somewhere around 4,000 pulse per up. And the liquidity pool, somewhere around 116,000 up, 464 million pulse. Up token price is determined by the ratio of the up to pulse and the price of pulse. And here's a quick example using the numbers we have here at 4,000 pulse and the current price of pulse somewhere around right here. You multiply those together, you got about a 16-cent up token currently. Now that ratio early on was around 1,200 pulse. Recent ratios, you could have gotten an up for 3,000 pulse. Our goal, we'd like to see a 10,000 pulse up. And while we're at it, let's try to get the pulse chain to five times the sacrifice value. And if we can do that, we get a $5 up. Question, is this a possibility? Answer, most definitely. How do we get there? Where's the math at here? Okay, well, what we need to do here is change the ratio. We want to get it to 10,000 pulse. Well, here's the big math that you need to understand. The ratio changes based on the square of the buy. You may have heard a few people talking about that when talking about liquidity pool math. So if you bring 10% more pulse, if you bring in over here and you bring in 10 pulse, because that would be 10% of this. If you bring in 10% more pulse to the LP pair, you increase the ratio by 21%. And it's the square. And if you square that, you get 1.21. It's a 21% increase. If you bring 20% more, then the ratio is going to increase 44% because 1.2 squared is 1.44. And so a quick example of that to make sure everybody's on board with what we're talking about. We bring in 10, now we have 110 billion, and by the way, not B tokens, these are A and B, and B doesn't stand for billion, sorry about that. But we bring in 10 B tokens. We have a ratio, current ratio is 80 to 10, whatever these tokens are. So the ratio is 1 to 1.25. And you get that ratio simply by doing some division between these two numbers. You know, let us add 10 B tokens. That's 10% more. That's what we're talking about doing over here. And if we do that, we're expecting to see the current ratio go to 1.5125. Because we're, according to the math we talked about over here, we have a current ratio, and if you bring in 10%, you should increase it by 21%, so we should be there. Well, let's see what happens. If you bring in these, and you get this total here, the K on this problem was 8,000. For those of you who know a little bit about liquidity, and if you don't, you might want to go back and watch one of my liquidity pool videos. But the K value from the automated market maker liquidity pools is A times B equals K. And so the K value, if you multiply 80 times the 100, you get to 8,000. But to get this new number over here, if you have 110 B tokens, how many of these will you end up with? Well, you do the division. You do the 8,000 divided by 110, you get 72.72. So bringing in 10 B tokens means you're trying to buy A. And what happened is you ended up buying a little over 7, almost 8 of these A tokens. So bringing in 10 of these, you would think, based on the ratio, you'd get 8 of these. So bring in 10, remove 8. But the math doesn't work out exactly that way. You only remove like 7.28 tokens. So here's the new ratio. The new ratio is 7.72 to 110. And if you do the division, sure enough, it comes out 1.5125. A lot of math, and this is the only real heavy math page on this video. But the idea is, if we want to change this ratio, you need to bring in some pulse, and you need to remove some up token. And the math behind that is, the more pulse you bring in, the more of this you remove, the better the ratio gets. I think that math is understood even if you're not a mathematician. Okay, so well, let me go back. We have 3 places currently using the up token strategy that are going to bring in pulse into the liquidity pool and remove up token. Coming soon is the UpX information and the design of UpX token and how that's also going to help. So the buy and burn vault. Here's a few data points. There's a haunted strategy worksheets out there on the internet, and went in there and we said, okay, here's the benevolent wallet vault. It's going to have about 1.6 billion pulse. You know, that number's close. We don't know exactly where the price is going to be when we launch our strategy, but currently we're sitting around this number here, which gives the vault value about $64,000. And that's all this. I put that in over here. You can't really see it. The nice thing is the price doesn't matter a whole heck of a lot when you're looking at this spreadsheet. What happens is when the price goes from current value to this right here, which is about a 10x, this vault is going to take and increase this number here of 1.6 billion. It's going to increase by about 43%. 43% of 1.6 billion turns into this number. Now that's how much loan, that's how much pulse we're going to get from the loans. Now if 23.75% of that is going to the buy and burn, we're going to add in here somewhere around $163 million worth of buy pressure. Now, of course, that is, according to the page we just did, it's about 35% increase. This is about 35%. So we're increasing the amount of pulse in here by about 35%. And if you square that, you're looking at about an 82% increase in the ratio. So the ratio is going to go 4,000 times 1.82. You're somewhere sitting around 7,300 pulse per up. Now, if you can get the price of pulse way up here, you're looking at a 56% increase in terms of the amount of pulse we're going to earn, or compound, I guess you could say, how much additional pulse we're going to have. And a portion of that will end up going over here into the liquidity pool. So the ratio is going to climb using this vault. But we also have the stability pool. We have that portion, and there's going to be a buy and burn there. So we put 60% of the benevolent wallets into the stability pool. We're going to earn some loan token. Take the loan token, it's going to go over and stake, and it's going to get us some USDL. What are we going to do with this USDL? Well, in the initial USDL strategy, it was going to compound and go back up there. Not anymore. It's going to the buy and burn. Well, what are the expectations for the yield? This is a big question mark. We don't really know what the yield's going to be on this portion, but I know what I witnessed on Liquity, which is the clone of Liquid Loans over on Ethereum, and can we outperform it? I don't know. We're going to have about 4.8 billion pulse dedicated to this process over here. I know the yield on Liquity was much higher than 50%, but even if it was just a 15% yield, 15% of that guy right there,
$720 million. That's a lot of buy and burn pressure. A lot of buy pressure. A lot of pulls. Again, I'm expecting a number much larger than that. But we'll see. Time will tell. Liquidity bonanza. Another place where we're going to get buy and burn. You got pulse, the current assets, the current assets, already got 100 million pulse in there. It's 100 million, guys. So we got 85,000 up in there. And we're, most of the LP. We're going to get some donated pulse from these raffles that we're going to have, the lotteries. And 10% of that's going to go to the buy and burn. Not sure. Big questions over here. But, is 50 million too much to expect in terms of buy and burn? If it is, scratch it. This is not a large amount compared to what we were talking about, but every little bit helps. Okay, UpX, a little bit of an unknown, but hey, 5% of all buy and burns from this protocol are going to the UP token. They're going to have a Pulse buy and burn vault. They're going to have a Pulse X buy and burn vault. They're going to have a liquid loan staking yield. They're going to have a bonanza. So there's going to be a lot of buy and burn for the UpX token, and a portion of that goes to our friend Up. So the sacrifice for UpX will determine just how significant this may be. We currently have 8 billion tokens in the first benevolent wallet. Might this guy get something larger than that? And if you do, billions of additional pulse in the stability pool would be very nice. So back to the math and our journey to a $5 Up token. The question is, will Pulse eventually get to 5x oversac rate? Most of us agree it will. We don't think it's going to take years for that to happen. Will the ratio of Up get to 10,000? Well, remember, the ratio changes on the square of the buy. Let me change colors here. The square of the buy. So if we want to get to 10,000, we need to do the square root of a 2.5, because 4,000 times 2.5 gets you to 10,000. So the square root of that is a 58% increase. We need to take the liquidity pool and add 58%. 58% would be about, let's just go 60%. 60 times, and let's act like that's 500 million, somewhere around 300 million. If we can get 300 million pulse today and shove it in here, we get to our 10,000. Now let's look at what we were looking at over here. In fact, we did the math down here. So we don't need 300 million. We need 269.6 million. But we were talking about the buy and burn vault alone generating 163 million. And that's just if we can get to a price of 0.0005. The liquid loan yield, we were talking about 720 million. The bonanza, 50 million. Do a little bit of math there, guys. That's 933 million. That's almost $1 billion. A billion pulse coming into our liquidity pool. Guys, if you bring in $1 billion, that's double this. That's a double. If we go back to this square idea, that's 3 squared. That's 9x. That's 1 up, 36,000 PLS. Of course, that's probably pretty unlikely anytime real soon. We're not talking months or days here, or weeks, but I do expect to get there at some point. But the negatives, or the things that will prevent us from having that, are sellers and the size of the LP. I expect this, because of the liquidity bonanzas and some of the other efforts, and some of the holders deciding to stake, or not stake, but farm their LP tokens, or join some LP, put some of their tokens in the liquidity pool. That'll be a little bit tougher, and we're not going to just jump up to 36,000 pulse. But the math is pretty nice. There's a lot of buy and burn. It's going to come in here. It's going to add to the liquidity pool. The ratio will increase. And I see this $5 thing happening.